people in here, folks. Tom and Finch. Here we go. Game number 3. It's weird. I haven't said that in years. We've done 2 games every day for so long. It's kind of weird. Your chair, too, that's kind of weird.
Things are weird, aren't they? Yeah. Just makes me kind of want to roll out on this instead of doing it, but I'll do it anyway. I'll stick it out.
All right. So this is a little bit different here. I'm going to introduce what's on the screen, and then you talk about it.
Sure.
These are the standings for Week 6.
Yeah, and eUnited just continues to look like the top card, don't they? Up near the top of the standing, 7-2. That's what they're trying to secure here up against Trifecta, create as much space between them and Space Station. Actually, if they can go to 8-3 since Space Station played all their games already, that's it. They'll just be the #1 seed going into LAN.
Whereas Trifecta on the up and up, they are definitely out of LAN contention, can't actually make it here. But just like Mouse did earlier on during the day, we can hopefully see them just perform well and kind of get an idea of what they're going to look like during the fall time. Let's get right to business. Game number 1, eUnited taking on Trifecta. Really exciting here. Trifecta going to be numero uno selection.
And I like when they're able to go first pick. Trifecta have been kind of up and down. I think that's fair to say, right?
Sure.
They haven't been able to consistently look well. There are times
Like a
when
pogo
Paul
stick?
looks great, like a pogo stick. Yeah, like Tigger from Winnie the Pooh, up and down, right? Yeah, up and I don't know. That's the first thing I think of. I think of pogo stick because he jumps up and down. But they've been kind of up and down, right? Paul sometimes looks like the best new mid laner you could ask for, and then sometimes Paul kind of struggles just a little bit. Zapman has been a little bit hot and cold for them too. Scary D and Mask, obviously, we can say the same for them. But when they're on, they look like they can hang with the likes here of eUnited. So let's see if they can do that consistently here for a whole set.
Very true. I mean, Zapman has been. I mean, I probably shouldn't talk about Zapman because I always talk about Zapman. But Mask,
he's very good at the game. Did you?
He's not bad. Yeah. But Mask has just been one of the standout players. I think that Mask. I'm very happy to see his team in third place because Mask. I've had conversations with people whose opinion I trust when it comes to competitive Smite, and a lot of them sit there and go, you know what, Mask could be the best damn jungler in North America. And it's funny watching his team not get the W. So Mr. Ascarzada certainly turning up now. And Terra and Artemis across the way. Trifecta, Mask's team, goes Chang'e into the Sylvanus. And then one more selection here. The Ratatoskr, one of Mask's prime gods.
Oh, I love this so far from Trifecta. They already have that double sustain locking it up. Sylvanus kind of has his foot in that door, but Chang'e certainly can bring a ton of healing. Sure. Ratatoskr, though, I want to see this pick getting involved early and often. It can be such a good pick for them in the early aggression. We know how well Mask likes to play that for him as well. Get in there early. As soon as you have that ult online, get over there and start ganking.
Zhong, though. They picked him. That's it. We'll see you later. No, but for real, Zhong has just been devastatingly dominant and really oppressive. But here's the one thing, is that sometimes it feels like you just can't beat Zhong, but the trick is that he has he doesn't get to reload, right? You go in, you ult, and you just let all the demons out. And if the other team isn't dead, you probably are. So if I'm Trifecta, I'm looking for a counter-initiation strategy.
I think that this eUnited composition so far, I really like the way their team fight works together. The Earth and Fury, the big ultimate from the Zhong, the boar coming out from Artemis. Trifecta, on the other hand, I don't know. It feels like they might have some pick composition here, depending on where they want to go after this Ratatoskr, who's so good from like levels 5 to 12, ganking those lanes, that sort of thing. eUnited, though, on the other hand, I mean, repositioning with the Janus ult, dropping the big Zhong ultimate, you would not want to fight them in a 5v5.
Not whatsoever. Trifecta, Ullr, and Medusa. We're going to see the Hunter in the middle lane. So early pressure, what they're really trying to do here, Trifecta, which has been their claim to fame recently, has been early pressure, and they're looking to win the game before Zhong actually becomes Zhong. And I love the response from eUnited here. Well, how do they respond? Awilix. Early pressure meet early pressure.
It's really cool, doesn't it? It feels like eUnited draft this like big mid to late game monster of a team fight, and then they go, whoa, Trifecta are really early. What can we kind of band-aid over this with? It's with the Awilix, right? If Ratatoskr is great at level 5, Awilix is great at level 1 and 2, right? As soon as she can feather step over you, as soon as she can knock you up, you're ready to start fragging. So I feel like this Awilix is going to be in a really great spot early and has good setup.
Really exciting to see this one. I'm not going to ask you for a prediction.
Oh, no.
As far as who's going to win or not. Really, what I want to know is, as a professional, what are you watching? Are you watching the Awilix to see if she can be that Band-Aid? Are you watching the Ratatoskr to see if he sets the pace of the game? Who are you watching in game number 1, Finch?
On Trifecta, I really am watching onto this Ullr, right? I imagine this is going to be going into the mid lane for them, so if they can get ahead early and do the Ullr things, Trifecta are in a great spot. But if they're late game trying to have an Ullr match at Janus, then they're really, really tough. So I think this Ullr needs to get off to a good start. Awilix just kind of tied things over for eUnited at the beginning, and if they make it to that mid to late game, it's hard to think eUnited lose.
We got an exciting one here. Let's ready to blow it up. It's TNT on the call.
Thank you, FDOT. Thank you, Finch. You know, things are going a little bit differently today. Finch, second chair on the desk. Me, chair oneing for the cast. But here with Taco, eUnited versus Trifecta. Interesting drafts. Going back to the double hunter is Trifecta.
I'm not too surprised, though, to see this double hunter strategy coming forward. It seems as though early game pressure is the clear mindset for Trifecta. You kind of have to, too. When you go for the Sylvanus, you want to pair it alongside of something that's going to continue to establish lane dominance. I like the Medusa choice here. But the Ullr, my main concern is seeing that Awilix pop up as the last pick for eUnited.
That's true, and that's going to be the hard counter. Who do you at home think is going to win? eUnited, the almost #1 guaranteed seed heading into this next line, or Trifecta still trying to figure out themselves?
I think that all in all, Trifecta have a very strong early game composition, but this could end up working against them if they're not able to accomplish that snowball that they're really going to be looking for. If eUnited are able to stalemate every single one of those lanes, then we could see Trifecta being caught in a really tough position of not being sure where to aggress from.
Well, let's head into game number 1 between eUnited and Trifecta, and let's see if that early game is going to be a factor, because late game potentially could be going for eUnited with this Artemis, and that seems to be the name of the game with the recent summer split meta kind of shifting for the late game.
Well, she's been called late game for so long, Tolly, but I firmly believe that Artemis still brings just as much in the early as she can in the late. That early crit potential can be devastating against gods like Ullr, but alongside of the Terra, not really much of a chance for PolarBearMike and PandaCat to outclear Zapman and NeiruMah.
Oh, look at this little flank from PandaCat and PBM. They're anticipating how aggressive they're going to be, and a horrific emblem to start things off. Stun onto NeiruMah. Crits are not really coming out in the favor of PandaCat, but a good amount of poke damage onto both NeiruMah and Zapman before the wisps come out from the Sylvanus.
I'm a little confused about the horrific emblem. I'll cut straight to the chase with it, Tolly. It seemed a bit out of place there. Maybe they were anticipating that the creep wave could do a little bit more damage to NeiruMah, but as a Sylvanus Ullr combination, bladed arrow plus the auto attacks that hit the AoE.
It might have been like they're anticipating the shell, because teams have been starting to switch to the shell outside of the sprint, and that used to be the hard counters. Venenu takes a little bit of poke onto Mask, but not until receiving some from himself. And because of the whole like mind games of like, okay, we're not going sprint, we're going shell, and then now you don't have that slow immunity, that could maybe start showing some horrific emblems later in the LAN?
Possibly. When it comes to Terra, though, level 1 is probably the least likely time period for a Terra to find a kill.
Sure.
Unless NeiruMah and Zapman are inside of the T1 tower, I don't really expect that. But I can agree with the concept there that maybe if we use our active, then they'll be prompted to drop their own relic.
Maybe a Terra on her to impale them under the tier 1 tower instead.
That would definitely do the trick.
Could have been a little spicy. We'll see as the LAN progresses soon enough how spicy some of these teams are feeling. But lane pressure definitely going to Trifecta. There's no question about that. Sylvanus, Ullr, that's as aggressive as you're going to get.
PandaCat, though, forced out of those purification beads. NeiruMah's pull also going to be slightly off the mark to the left, but Zapman already got what he was after, and it's not only the lane dominance, but you have to keep in mind bladed arrow just for zoning.
Definitely, and with the red buff already for both of these hunters, it'll favor out Zapman. That's rushing this Transcendence, trying to utilize the mana that he gets from this item and the MP5 for the zoning.
It's a heavy feast or famine route if you're a hunter player. You either get the 1,400 gold online in a timely enough manner that you have a very relevant power spike that then allows you to choose to aggress into the enemy jungle, or you get camped off cooldown, fall incredibly far behind, and have almost nothing to compensate it with. Doesn't need to be the case here, though, so far for Trifecta, because Zapman and NeiruMah already got the first successful cycle buff invade on that purple.
Good idea to be able to carry this lead. When you have such a lead in terms of being able to zone your opposition, might as well start looking for some of these invades. Scream was right around the corner, but he was just a hair too late to make the difference. And without being level 5, Awilix ganking an Ullr, not necessarily the timing window that you want to look for, but Scream still making his rotation.
And Scream gonna be here pretty soon. He's only level 4 though still. NeiruMah gonna be the easy candidate to go on, and sure enough, Featherstep to lock him in place. Purification
He's
beats,
so
though.
slow from that horrific emblem. He's just walking in quicksand. Can't make a play, but look in the sky. Mask landing onto 2, gets the stun off, but he can't confirm the kill quite yet.
PolarBearMike, though, still looking to play aggressively against Zapman. Venenu's level 5 now, able to rotate over, looking for the unstable vortex, won't be able to find it. Zapman with a nice little juke away there. Make sure that he lives to see another day.
A great presence of mind for Zap to anticipate when the unstable vortex was coming out just to disengage. First blood goes in the favor of PandaCat, one of these late game hunters that you don't want to give the first blood to.
It's hard to imagine that PandaCat would be the one to secure it, but Scream, gank, proving to be beneficial here. It was level 4 a little bit early on, but with the way that Trifecta were playing so heavily on that tower line, they had to have seen that one coming.
Absolutely. When you're going to be having a lead to look to zone and be aggressive, you got to anticipate the counter gank. Scream making a presence on the left and now shifting it to the right. Good double wax and moon from Scary D just to buy himself a moment, preventing any follow-up from Benji.
Also like the quick little turnaround flick that we saw there from Scary D, just to make sure that that moonlit charge doesn't end up knocking him up into the gravity surge from Scream. Awilix just recently received a couple of pretty important buffs here, Toli.
That's true. Awilix is a very popular god in the earlier seasons, but recently in 5.11 with the Summit Suko, the strafe speed has been a little bit easier to pilot.
Also, I think the recent buff to hi-rez has been another crucial itemization choice for her, but right now it's all about Benji. He's in a little bit of danger here as Mask and Scary D still trying to commit.
Trying to make a play onto the Zhong. It's a good way to shut him down in the early game, prevent the monstrous factor that he'll provide all this AoE damage and potentially utility if he elects to go for this Gem of Isolation. Scary D forces Benji to kind of sit back in the wave. And by Chang'e back into base first, gonna have way more mobility now as Benji working for this Warlock staff.
Benji has been in his A game as far as counter matchups in the solo lane are concerned. Chang'e, a lot of solo laners have really been struggling to try and find the solution here. And speaking of
through
solutions,
space and time, eUnited trying to make a play here. NeiruMah, he died before, and he's going to be another victim yet again, unless Paul has something to say about it. Finally, avenging NeiruMah from the first death. Scream goes down.
Mass, though, still looking for more against PandaCat. He's trying to take the portal through. Will finally be able to find it, but that comes at a cost. Acid Spray going to be off the mark as Venenu collects NeiruMah with the unstable vortex.
eUnited trying to make it happen yet again, but Mask finding PandaCat isolated in alone without his ultimate, nowhere to go. And PBM now could be in a little bit of trouble. Zapman looks for the support player, dunks right on top of him, but Mask was a little bit too aggressive, barely running away.
Mask just kept kiting Venenu, and I can't help but wonder what that fight would have looked like had they been able to confirm NeiruMah so much sooner. The big issue was that shell coming through saved him from the Featherstep damage that Screen was able to put out and just absorbed everything in the process.
Good pull onto Scream just to poke him out. No real follow-up, but it's a good little practice targeter just to see how accurate you're going to be and warm yourself up for the later stages of the game. And you're so right, Taco, about the shell. And this is why it's such a popular relic amongst your Guardian support players to survive some of these team fights and the ganks, because a Sylvanus without a shell is already a sitting duck. So you might as well give him some more survivability before you get some of these tanky items online.
Wouldn't be opposed to seeing NeiruMah opt for a blink as a secondary relic, because that would give him some initiation, and if he's going to opt for the shell, it means he's planning to be beefy.
Zapman gonna force out the beads onto PandaCat, but the stun right on top of NeiruMah. Good root on top, but not gonna follow up with a pull quite yet. PBM making sure that he's right behind the hunter to intercept it.
Zapman just a little bit more favored. Also, Scream gonna run straight into Maz. Both of these junglers looking to gank the dual lane.
The through space and time was used. PBM uses his Earth and Fury up in the sky as Mask. Who is he gonna land on in the backline? It's gonna be PandaCat. He doesn't have any defensive relics.
Zapman, he's got no mana, but it looked as though he wanted to give chase. And NeiruMah and Mask, though, gonna make sure that Zap doesn't do anything too reckless as eUnited choose to back off. Really, not much else they could have done there, though.
Well, even though Zapman doesn't appear to have that much mana, with a fully completed Transcendence, it extends your mana pool a little bit. So that little bit of mana is actually about 2 spells, potentially, for the chase down.
Also, the 10% cooldown reduction is important to keep in mind here, because that's the reason why we saw the Bladed Arrow come out twice in that fight.
It's true, as Zapman's able to make the offensive play, and that's what Zapman is really known for, trying to set up some of those plays here. NeiruMah goes through the portal, takes a little bit of damage, but this is when Sylvanus really can start to sustain himself, sitting at that level 7 marker.
Everyone from Trifecta, though, doing everything in their power to make sure they stay facing forward whenever Scream is nearby. No one's trying to get hit by that Moonlit charge, because the only real form of a knockup available for Scream in this game outside of Zapman's jump on the Ullr is just his own setup.
Yeah, it's not going to be very easy. And from Venenu's portal, is that something that he can pull once they're landing back down from it, from the banish?
No. You cannot pull off of Freya Whoop or Janus portals.
Gotcha.
It's got to be the knockup. Even the Jingwei agility dash, you can't actually pull that unless she knocks herself up from the persistent gust.
Looking at the Medusa in the mid lane for Paul, who's been relatively quiet this game as there's been so much action in the dual lane primarily, but going for this Medusa himself also going for a Transcendence Rush. Do you think that this is too much physical damage for a Trifecta that eUnited could just build around?
I'm pretty sure that seems to be the game plan for eUnited to try and counteract it. I definitely think that eUnited have a much more well-rounded composition, but if Trifecta can continue to win these early skirmishes, that might not matter much, because if you get the itemization in your favor with 2 hunters, every objective on the map is yours.
Trying to make something happen under this tier 1 tower. Benji was considering diving that tower. He does have the vision right outside of it as Mask. Looking to play very aggressive. 1 level advantage above Scream, and he's going to be looking for a potential invade as the red buff is nearing the respawn time.
Zapman could potentially be forced into the knockup, but instead, Purification Beads are his saving grace. Same can't be said for PandaCat, however, because Maz dropped right on top of him with that Through the Cosmos.
Venenu trying to run away and disengage. His ultimate is still just now being used. PBM going to get slowed from the backhand side of the Petrify. Double dashes away into safety. The dots from NeiruMah not enough to really eliminate the life pool. And with that 1 clean pick onto PandaCat, red buff stripped away.
These have felt like really awkward engagements for eUnited. The vision just seems to always be in Trifecta's favor, and that's not the only thing Trifecta are about to have, is the Gold Fury falls to their name, and no one on the map to contest it because that through space and time was used defensively.
Just a good way to abuse the Artemis. We actually saw it in the previous European set, Obey Alliance's Ataraxia getting abused when he was playing the Artemis. And this is the way you shut her down, by preventing her from getting to that mid to late game, by picking some of the physical ability hunters, being able to be aggressive with some global pressure. Mask on point, shutting down PandaCat with a 3-level advantage for Zapman. Trifecta getting themselves this first Gold Fury is putting them in a good spot.
It's not just the level advantage either for Zapman, so much as it is the fact he gets away with this incredibly greedy build, because it is very greedy to just straight up try and rush a Transcendence, but both Zap and Paul are not seeming to suffer for it in the slightest, because it's eUnited who have been on the back foot this entire match so far.
Yeah, looking to do something around the Oracles, and being for a greedy build, sometimes there's some merit to the greedy build, because obviously the late game is a threat for eUnited. You got Benji playing the Zhong, PandaCat playing the Artemis. What is the timer that you're looking for eUnited to, or sorry, for Trifecta to close this game out before eUnited becomes too scary to handle?
24 to 27 minutes. I think that that's their wiggle room, and anything after that's going to be a bit of a struggle, because eUnited, even though they might not be able to match itemization, they can probably match levels by then.
That's very true. You don't necessarily always need those 6 item slots for the Phoenix defenses. All you really need is some of those levels, but Mask might not let that happen. Scaredy with a nice double waxing moon. Venenu gets taken out, as does Scream. 2 quick kills for Zapman. Trying to dive PBM under the tier 2 towers. Paul gets credit with that one. Great sustain from Scary D between his heal and a meditation on top of it allows for the tier 1 tower to crumble.
Seems as though Trifecta are still aching for more, and I can't blame them. Heading straight for the Pyromancer now. eUnited, it's only Benji left to try and defend, and his life is not worth the price of that Pyro.
Just couldn't really make his presence felt in that rotation. Trifecta made the play happen very quickly, and it's always a race between these 2 soul laners to see who makes their presence felt first. And at the 13-minute mark, Scary D was called upon. He was summoned to make that play happen easily with a nice double waxing moon. Benji couldn't really do much when he was solo farming.
He hasn't had the best of times against Benji in the respective 1v1, but that doesn't matter. You don't necessarily pick Chang'e to win your lane so much as you pick her to win the team fight. Sustain is the name of the game here for Trifecta, and if they can keep this ball rolling, eUnited are probably going to start sweating some.
And what's more impressive is the fact that Scary D was rotating while he's also stacking the Warlock staff. Normally the mentality goes, okay, I need to sit in lane and farm for as long as possible, so try not to fight without me, or don't expect me to make those rotations anytime soon. But Benji was even further along in the stacking department. He could have definitely sacrificed some stacks himself as well.
Trouble for PandaCat now as Zapman finds those purification beads one more time with the axe, and without those beads, PandaCat's just a sit and duck here for Mask.
If you're PandaCat though, and you get stunned by a level 14 Ullr, are you afraid of getting 100 to 0 by the remaining bow stance abilities?
It's not worth the risk of getting hit by the bladed arrow and hail of arrow, because that wouldn't have killed him, I'm pretty sure. The problem is that Mask then freely dives, and as long as you connect with that through the Cosmos from the initial drop down, he gets the kill every time.
Whether or not you get the knockoff.
PandaCat's left at like 20 to 10% health threshold.
Guaranteed kill. So I like the idea just to avoid that primary damage. Even despite having Devil Gloves, you might not necessarily have the time to hit the wave to get all that lifesteal with the global pressure from the Ratatoskr. Meanwhile, in the solo lane, not really much action between this Chang'e and the Zhong. They're just going to be casually farming away. Benji opting for the Void Stone for the magical defense, whereas Scary doesn't really care about eating any sort of damage from Benji. He's more worried about getting the physical defense to survive some of the pressure from Scream and also get that important 20% CDR.
This has just been a really well-developed strategy from Trifecta now, because they focused out the dual lane so much so that Scary D, despite being rest on,
ouch, Scary D mistiming his second ability, but Scream is not deterred. It's all a bait. Mask comes around the corner. Scream doing a good job jumping away. Even avoids the through space and time. Only one of the orbs hit, but Benji's damage over time secures the kill.
And now Scream doesn't have that gravity surge to pull Zapman, so he jumps right on over the wall. Mask and Zapman still trying to catch up to Scream, but the blink forward could do it here. Acorn Blast is going to finish him off as Scream pretty much drops right in front of Mask.
A clean 2-for-1 after the 1-for-1 in the solo laners traded out. Zapman has made the rotation from the dual lane, forcing the beats from Venenu, still trying to dive the Portal God. This is the Zapman of olden times.
With only PolarBearMike here left to defend, Mask and Zap will eventually end up backing off, but everything comes at a price for eUnited right now, and for them, it's going to be Trifecta going uncontested on this Gold Fury.
Losing their tier 1 in the solo lane and now about to drop a Gold Fury. NeiruMah and Paul juggling the Gold Fury aggro. Who says the support can't juggle the aggro of the Gold Fury? Well, if you're Sylvanus, you certainly can. Look at those graphs. More than just the gold, the experience is starting to get out of control.
eUnited were probably expecting this to be a little bit more play to their pacing, but Trifecta just came out from nowhere. Honestly, they just rushed down the red buff time and time again. The moment that eUnited even slightly alluded to giving some form of a counter rotation, it's immediately stomped out because Trifecta just burst them down.
So when I look at this game, I feel like eUnited just wasn't really prepared for this Sylvanus Ullr to pop off the way it did. Is that the reason why Screammmmm goes for this Awilix last pick, just because of the Ullr, or is there some sort of merit in the jungle matchup?
There's a little bit of a merit in being able to focus out an Ullr uncontested normally, but the problem was eUnited's duo just got punished way too heavily. Artemis, Terra, there's just not enough pressure there between the two to try and tackle on an Ullr Sylvanus duo lane, and Screammmmm got off a really nice gank to start with, but Mask did a perfect job in compensating for that initial loss of pressure by immediately making his presence known, and ever since then, PandaCat has just been left as bait.
Just can't really do much as a 4-level deficit to Zapman. Trifecta doing a good job baiting the Fire Giant, gets an ultimate from Venenu, so no more mobility to escape the clutches if Trifecta look to engage. And Genji's guard just now completed from Scary D's Bunny, increasing his CDR to that cap 40%. He's going to be able to spam a bunch of abilities. Screammmmm is actually going to pull NeiruMah. That's going to force Mask to go through the Cosmos.
Screammmmm just completely destroys NeiruMah in an instant, but now Mask in a lot of trouble. He's actually a little bit too far away from the rest of his team. All he needs is one Feather Step over the Petrify and gets the kill.
Screammmmm with a double kill, a quick 2 for nothing. Trifecta caught slipping as Scary D is going to be the third victim. What just happened? eUnited now going to go for the Fire Giant themselves.
They're pulling it. They have no concerns about pulling this. It's only Zapman and Paul left to defend. Zap doesn't have an ultimate. Paul doesn't have an ultimate. Benji playing zone duty takes a decent amount of poke, but I'm not sure these hunters can do anything.
eUnited secure at 19 minutes in. Paul trying to run for his life, and through space and time, back and available. Paul left like a sitting duck, and Zapman trying to run for his life. Screammmmm not going to let that happen. Aegis being used, trying to bite off more than he can chew. Zapman trying to run away. He is not going to fall victim to eUnited, but going to give up his tier 1 tower. The pull onto NeiruMah, that's the only thing that really popped off, and eUnited all of a sudden are winning the game.
All they needed was one. It just displaced Trifecta so heavily. They kind of fed into that also. Mask let his bleed play him a little bit there because the rest of Trifecta was nowhere near him. He drops down in the backline of eUnited and immediately gets turned upon. If you've ever wanted to know what a turn and burn looks like, that's eUnited's calling card.
Absolutely. The thing that I saw was that NeiruMah was also crowd controlled so hard that he never got off the Wrath of Terra to begin with. And without your Sylvanus for the shell and the sprint, and also his Shogun's Kusari to amplify the attack speed of Paul and Zapman, it just felt like Trifecta's composition crumbles right under their feet.
For as well as Trifecta played the first 18 minutes of this match, all it takes is 2 for everything you built to come tumbling down, and eUnited now with a little bit of a lead, not necessarily in experience or goal, but lead is in the map pressure and the map control. Just look at how far forward they're able to branch off now in comparison to how reserved and passive they were playing the laning phases initially.
And I was worried for the composition for eUnited, Screammmmm specifically, because he has no setup outside himself, and the only person he could realistically pull is Zapman. But who needs all that setup when you could pull for yourself onto such a non-mobile god such as Sylvanus?
Another important note to make here, though, is Awilix is probably one of the best assassins in terms of trying to confirm a kill onto Sylvanus. You can very easily feather step over the Wrath of Terra, and not only that, but if you get the knock-up into the Gravity Surge, it's decent amounts of damage, but Gravity Surge makes it so you're immune to root damage, so you can just spam him with the auto attacks, chasing him, and not having to worry about the Sylv passive of rooting you in place.
That's very true. It's actually one of the most common just mechanics that people just casually forget about, just the non-roots, the non-slows immunities as well, such as like the Mercury 2, for example, not being able to really contain him, as eUnited now going for the right side. Gravity Surge from Screammmmm, trying to get off more attack speed and damage, and also with some of the changes to Awilix outside of the Suku control, is the Gravity Surge cooldown dropped from 90 seconds at max rank all the way down to 70.
I'm really just keeping an eye on the fact that hi-rez gives you the 50% now off the bonus auto attack from an ability being used.
It's really important for Scream to find that damage. Mask's ultimate forces out the Earth and Fury, but eUnited still going in. A nice little double hit coming out from Venenu onto 2 tanky targets. Tier 2 tower finally does crumble as Benji takes a little bit of damage, but I think it's eUnited's go time.
Benji just destroys Scary D with his ultimate. Scream still giving chase, takes out NeiruMah on the process. Zapman forced to jump away and use the purification boots, all the while eUnited still standing 5 members tall.
5 on 3. eUnited with Fire Giant for another 30 seconds. They have the mini wave under the middle Phoenix to be able to get their first Firebird of the game. 22.5 minutes in. eUnited were looking a little shaky to start off this game, but the world defending champions know how to bring it back to their grasp.
It just looked like eUnited weren't even playing this game for the first 17 minutes, and then suddenly when they realize that things are getting a little bit too out of control, they're like, okay, now's our turn.
It was all that one little pull. The mentality plays a big factor in a lot of these SPL games. Everybody can be a little bit too confident. That's kind of what happened to Mask when he gets a little too comfortable. He thinks he's almost like Superman, but that was not to be the case there. The rest of his teammates just not that close enough to follow up his global ultimate.
Also, by the time they did catch up, they were so split apart from each other that it was very easy for eUnited to just track them down one by one, because eUnited, the whole time that they've been playing this ever since they came back into it, has been grouped up very heavily. I can't say the same for Trifecta. Both of these carries tend to branch apart from each other, and it just feels as though Scary D and NeiruMah are having some trouble keeping track of who to try and protect.
And with that one little play, PandaCat now making a comeback in the experience department, almost level 20, while Zapman was level 20 for quite a bit of time, working on the crit now as well, because there's just no reflect damage, no thorns, no hide of Nemean lines to really contain this late game Artemis presence.
PandaCat can kill Paul or Zapman in a heartbeat if it's just them. Even in a 1v2, I feel like he could take it because he's got the crit.
The backline through the Cosmo knocks up 2, but Earth and Fury for the chase down through space and time as Mask gets eliminated. Double kill for Venenu. Benji takes out Scary D as well. NeiruMah is soon to fall. That's going to be 4 dead Trifecta members, and Zapman just going to push down the mid lane. There's nothing he could do, and I think eUnited, they don't care about the Fire Giant toggle. They want the game.
I think we saw everything we needed to in that instant, totally, because there is nothing a lone Zapman can do to stop this one from tumbling down. He can maybe try to take a member out with him, but game number 1 is all for eUnited.
Mechanics are there, Taco. There's just something about execution and strategy to close it out. Is eUnited come back with a furious force, winning the last 7 minutes of the game despite losing about the first 18. What a performance.
That was just perfectly played by eUnited, and you wouldn't have seen it coming. I can't even fault Trifecta too heavily because it only took one team fight for everything that Trifecta had established. All that map pressure, all that lane dominance completely right out the window.
I almost don't even call it a team fight because it was just a surprise okie doke. The pull through the wall. Scream was my personal MVP. Who do you guys at home think was the MVP from that one? Taco, do you have any candidates?
Do you even have to ask me? I think we all know how I feel about Awilix.
Yes, definitely one of your go-to jungle picks. The very few times that you do play it. Has a lot of burst damage in the early game, and that has the idea behind trying to shut down Mask if you ever run into him in the jungle, or try to catch out the aggressive Zapman's Ullr.
I wouldn't be surprised if Scream was maybe expecting the Ullr to be for Paul. I do think that was Trifecta's fun way of throwing eUnited for a loop there, but after seeing that it was Zapman on the Ullr and Paul with the Medusa, I think that swap also came probably as a result of that Awilix last pick.
That's very true. eUnited showing us that they're very flexible in their selection. Zhong for Benji, not even like really first pick either, just doing a good job having that still under his belt. I think that Trifecta needs to evaluate whether or not they want to give that up for him next game again.
They just need to make sure that they're staying grouped up. Once they've got the lead, there's no reason for any one member to be by themselves. NeiruMah, you can't really help that. You just happen to get picked and pulled through the wall, or over the wall, I should say, and you're just dead by all measures. But the rest of Trifecta, they could have backed off there, grouped up, and then looked to maybe try and take on eUnited.
Well, unfortunate set of circumstances for Trifecta in game number 1, but can they bounce back in game number 2? Let's break it down at the desk.
It's a great question, Anatoly, Tom, and Finch, bringing you business. Game 1, eUnited won the match.
And they won the match pretty handily, too. I mean, that game was going so in favor of Trifecta the entire early game. It was almost exactly like how we were describing it. Mask had so much pressure on the Ratatoskr. Zapman actually took the Ullr into the dual lane as opposed to the Medusa and was able to get a ton of pressure on PandaCat with Mask's help as well. But it just, one fight near the Fire Giant pit where they overcommit, the Neo gets pulled, Mask overcommits as well, and then eUnited never really gave up after that.
I mean, the big ultimate coming out from Venenu was incredible on that last fight. The through space and time just cut through the entire team fight, really turned things around for these guys. This was largely Trifecta's game. And when I see a 3,000 gold lead, I don't really think that the team has really had control over it. It's just the way that they were playing. This was all them.
And in the end, it sounds like it is going to be Screammmmm that gets selected as the MVP for you all. I think this is just the play that really does it, right, where he gets the pull back over the wall, then Mask comes in, just too late to save him.
I think Awilix is one of the stronger characters just around. And Screammm's ability to really play her is wonderful. Her detractors and correct analysis tells you that late game Awilix can be a little bit problematic. But here, it doesn't really matter if you have the other players to really carry the burden.
And it was so interesting. It wasn't Awilix doing late-game Awilix things so much as that knock-up was really a big deal for them. And then later on, Venenu really sort of takes that torch, right? Once they sort of get that door opened up for them by Screammmmm, they really never relinquish it again. They're able to come down and grab the Fire Giant. The rest of Trifecta come in one by one. That's the two-man hit on that ultimate, sets up the kill onto Paul. I mean, Venenu really does help carry it out for them. But, I mean, look at this back. 17 minutes in, Trifecta are up like 7K gold, even more experience. That fight around the Fire Giant, that great play there that they were able to go over the wall by Screammmmm, that's all it takes to erase it.
And